Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name's Rachel and this is Stitched Up. So today is the announcement of what we are going to be sewing on the March live sew along that is going to be taking place on Sunday the 27th of March at 4 p.m. I believe. That is British summertime because the clocks go forward an hour in the UK, I think on the 26th, and we will have the lighter evenings, which will be amazing because it will mean that it's going to be much easier for you to see what's going on. So I hope you're going to join me for that. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Now, I know a few of you have pointed out that it is Mother's Day here in the UK on the 27th. And yes, I completely appreciate that. However, this is, you know, this live does go out to everybody around the world, and I certainly know from the past sew-alongs that I've done that many of you join in from other countries as well where it isn't Mother's Day. And for me, my kids are not going to be at home on Mother's Day. It's going to be later on in the day anyway, and I'm quite happy to just go with it because, as I explained before, it is the only day in the only weekend day in March that I can manage, I'm afraid, because I normally do these on a Saturday. So what has been voted for as your favourite in the polls? I ran a poll on YouTube in my community tab and also in my Facebook community group, and overwhelmingly the winner was this, which is the Anastasia blouse by Lapis Vert. And this is a French pattern. It's a freebie. You can only get it in PDF format, I'm afraid, so it does mean that you will have to download the instructions and the PDF and stick it together from the internet, but I will leave the link down below where you can go and access this. But overwhelmingly this was voted for as your favourite for the sew along. But as we have done in the past on previous sew alongs, if you don't like this blouse and you don't want to sew it, then absolutely you can still join in and bring your own project. That's absolutely fine, but this is the top that I will be sewing. Now, the Anastasia, as a few people have pointed out, it's not very size inclusive, but unfortunately you do find this with a lot of European patterns. I've certainly seen it with French and German patterns, that quite often they are not very size inclusive, and I think size inclusivity still has a way to go in Europe. Unlike it is in the US and the UK, we do seem to be getting a much better size range to cater for all genders of all sizes, and that's really positive news. But unfortunately this pattern hasn't got an amazing size range, so that is something to bear in mind. And I'm really sorry if you know you want to join in with this sew along, but this pattern doesn't come in the size range that you need for your own body shape. Nothing I can do about that, unfortunately. You do find sometimes with free patterns as well, you know, I certainly know from a couple that they come in one size and you know you just have to go with it. It's just the nature of the beast, unfortunately. But as I said, you can, you know, if you've got amazing pattern drafting skills, you can probably grade this up anyway, or grade it down if you need to. If you haven't got those skills, as I say, you can bring your own project. So, but this is the top that we're going to be sewing, that I'm going to be sewing, and I'm excited to have a go. So I wanted to tell you a little bit more about it. I have my instructions and my pattern pages printed off already, and they just need sticking together. And it's a good job that I've already got this because my printer gave up the ghost yesterday and I currently don't have one, which is not great. So it's a good job I've already got this. But yes, 2 weeks to the sew along. There is only 20 pages of the actual pattern pages to stick together, so it's not too onerous a job. And the instructions unfortunately only come in French, so if your French is a little bit rusty like mine, I did do French at school, but it's a long time ago since I was at school, and yeah, there is no English instructions, but I'm going to show you a very good way of how to translate the instructions so you will be able to understand what you need to do. But before we get to that, I'm going to just tell you a little bit more about this pattern. So as you will see from the picture that I've inserted at some point during this little chat, this is a beautiful blouse, very romantic, very ruffly, and I love it. It does look quite low cut at the front, and that is something to bear in mind, but we'll see how we get on. I have no idea what height this pattern is drafted for. I don't know what Lapis Vert draft their patterns for when it comes to height. so I can't help you with that one. I did have a quick look at their website, but I couldn't find any information about it whatsoever. So I am going to just go with that it's going to be around 5'5", 5'6", which is probably, I don't know, that's just the average, isn't it? That's and I'm going to base my adjustments on that, and I'm going to add in probably a good 1.5 inches to probably the sleeve length, and well, maybe 1 inch to the sleeve and 1.5 inches to the body length, and we'll just take it from there and we'll see how we get on. Now, the pattern measurements are for a chest range of 31.5 inches up to 40.9 inches. However, the finished measurements on that are 34.6 to 44.1. So you can see you've got, you know, a good sort of 3 to 4 inches of ease around the chest. The body measurement for the waist is a range of 23.6 inches up to 33 inches. So again, it's quite small. However, the finished garment measurements for the waist are 36.2 to 45.6. So you've got a good amount of ease around the waist. And then the hip body measurement is designed for 33.8. Who on earth has 33-inch hips? I've never known. Yeah, I don't think I had those when I was born, if I'm honest. But anyway, up to 43.3 inches, which again, 43 inches is my full hip measurement, and that's the maximum that this goes to. However, the finished hip measurements are 37.8 to 47.2, so you've got about 4 inches of ease there as well. Unfortunately, with this being a blouse, you know, it's really only going to hit your high hip, isn't it? So it shouldn't be too much of a problem, fingers crossed. It includes a seam allowance of 1 centimetre, so again, you need to bear that in mind. A lot of French patterns tend to be around 1 centimetre seam allowance. So there isn't a lot of movement when it comes to making, you know, those last minute alterations that you might need to do if you make this blouse. So just bear that in mind. If you want a bigger seam allowance, you will need to add that in once you have got your pattern pieces all cut out. So just bear that in mind. But yes, 1 centimetre for the seams, and it has 1.5 centimetres for the hem. You're going to need 1.5 meters of fabric for this pattern, and it recommends obviously drapey fabrics because of the flounce around the neckline as well. Now, I haven't got so far as reading the instructions yet. However, I would imagine that the flounce along the front of the neckline is going to be in a single layer, and I might actually do mine in a double layer so that you don't have that issue of trying to create that really narrow seam on a flounce. And I will show you how I do that during the sew along. I say I might do that because the fabric that I've got is just under 1.5 meters, and I'm not sure if I'm going to have enough. I'm hoping I do, but we'll see. If I don't have enough, then I will probably have to just do this on a single layer. But this is something else you need to think about when you are choosing your fabric for this project, because with there being a flounce, you will probably see the wrong side of the flounce when you're wearing the garment. So, you know, when you're choosing fabrics and the wrong side is completely different to the right side, you know, you get some fabrics that are printed on rather than it being woven into the actual fabric itself, then just bear in mind that you might see the underside of that. So you need to be happy with what the wrong side of the fabric looks like as well as the right side. So just bear that in mind when you're choosing your fabrics for this project. The instructions also say that you're going to need 5 9mm shank buttons as well. So shank buttons are the ones that aren't flat. They've got like a little shank underneath with a hole in that you stitch on. And that is because I believe, I've not got the picture in front of me, but I believe you've got rouleau loops for fastening. Now, if you don't want to do that, you can just alter it slightly. So you just create the normal buttonholes and a normal flat button. I'm sure it will be absolutely fine, and we'll see, because I hate doing those little rouleau loops, if I'm honest, because I never get them sewn in right. I'm just not great at it, and I can never get them fine enough. However, you know, we'll see how we get on. It's just one of those skills that takes a bit of practice. So we'll decide how we proceed with that, I think, a little bit nearer the time. And it also says you're going to need 1.5 to 1.75 meters of bias binding. It doesn't say what width bias binding, but again, you can use pre-purchased bias binding if you want to. There's Piper coming to say hello. Or you can, as I will hopefully do, create your own bias binding out of the scraps of the fabric that you're using. So that I assume will be for around the neckline, but you know, we'll see, won't we? So that is the basics about this pattern, and I know that some of you, I mean overwhelmingly this pattern was voted for by you guys to be the next sew along, and I really think you're starting to test my skills a little bit, because obviously it's in French with no English instructions, and we're going to see how we get on with this. But as I say, I have got a great way of how you can translate instructions, and it is using the Google Translate app, which you can download to your smartphone. If you don't have a smartphone, I'm really sorry. I know there are some people out there that don't have smartphones, but you know, they've been around a few years now, and Google fortunately do have a Translate app, which means that you can hover over using your camera of your printed instructions, and it will just visually change them into English, which is amazing. I'm going to show you how that works in a second. But if you don't have a smartphone, you can just use your own, you know, whether it's your phone, your normal phone to get onto the internet, or use a laptop or a desktop computer or a tablet, whatever you've got to access the internet. Look up Google Translate and then type in the words of the instructions, and it will translate them into English for you. So that's a bit of a long-winded way, but let me show you now how the Google Translate app works, and you can see how amazing it is. Right, so I've got my phone here, my iPhone, and I am going to go across to the app, which is this one here. You can download this from the App Store or the Google Store, whatever it's called, on your smartphone, but for me this is it here. Excuse my horrible nail polish at the minute. I really should have redone that before I vlogged, didn't I? But I didn't think about it, so sorry about that. Anyway, Google Translate app. So when you open the app, you are initially taken to a screen that looks like this, and at the top I've already got it to French, but if you click on the button you can change, you know, whatever language it is that you're wanting to translate, just click on it. So obviously we've got French, and then here you should have camera, conversation or transcribe. So if you click on camera, it will open up your camera, and then all you need to do is hover over the instructions, and can you see it changes it? How amazing is that? And then we'll do this one here. So at the bottom obviously we have all your list of French notions and things, but if I hover over, oh, where are we? Here we go. Look at that. Hopefully it's going to focus and you can see. We've got our shopping list in English. Okay, so here we have some of the French instructions, and if I hover over with my camera, where are we? You can see it translates it for me. So it's, you know, it's pretty cool actually, isn't it? It's amazing. So yeah, fingers crossed you can get that to work on your phones or your tablet or whatever device you use, and you'll be able to figure out the instructions no problem. And if you can't do that, then sew along with me and I will hopefully be able to figure them out, and we'll work our way through this pattern. But yes, I'm really excited to be making this pattern, and yeah, it's going to be good fun. So fabric then, I have been rooting around in my stash and I have chosen this one, which is this gorgeous fabric by Maison Fauve, which again is a French company, and they make patterns and fabrics, and yes, they're very beautiful. This is a viscose fabric. I have previously made a Maison Fauve pattern out of this, and I got another length of it because I loved it so much and it was in the sale. But I am planning to make this blouse using this, and as I say, I think I have just under 1.5 meters because it has been pre-washed and I have had a little bit of shrinkage, so I am hoping that this is going to be fine. And the other thing to remember with a flounce as well is because a flounce pattern piece is always circular, so that's another thing to bear in mind when it comes to choosing your fabric. You want something that probably is non-directional, because the flounce piece is going to be cut in sort of like a snail shape, and yeah, if you've got a directional fabric that might not quite work with when it's obviously sewn onto the front neckline of the blouse. So have a think about that when you're choosing your fabrics as well. But this is the fabric I am going to be using. I think it's perfect for spring and it's really pretty, very romantic and totally up my street. So that's it. What else can I tell you? Probably not a lot really. This is obviously, as I mentioned in my announcement vlog for the live sew along for March, I did mention that I wanted to tie this month's project in with the Sew Frugal 22 challenge, which Ruan and Sam are hosting. And yeah, if you haven't got a project for Sew Frugal 22 and you were, you know, racking your brains of what you wanted to do, then this is going to tie in perfectly. And with us sewing this up on the 27th means that you've got a couple more days if you don't get it finished during the live sew along to get it finished and uploaded onto Instagram on the 31st, which is the reveal date. So you can still take part in the challenge, which is amazing. So yeah, that's it. So I hope you can join me on the 27th. I'll really look forward to seeing you all again. The last ones we've done have been so much fun. And as I said, if this isn't your style, that's totally fine. Just bring your own project if you want to have a lovely evening with a group of fabulous sewing pals. And yeah, we'll have a couple of hours, 2 or 3 hours to sew up a project together and just have a lovely evening. As I mentioned before, I'm trying to sort of fit this in between Sian from Kittenish Behaviour. She normally does her sort of Sunday hangouts on a Sunday, obviously, and I'm hoping hers will be sort of finished for 4 p.m. and then the lovely Andrea from Beyond the Pink Door does her lives at 7 p.m. on a Sunday as well. So if you take part in either of those, that means you can still do that as well. I didn't want to infringe on their times at all because I know how much lots of us love taking part in those. I certainly do, and it's going to be an amazing day, let's face it, you know, an amazing Mother's Day of live sew-alongs and fabric love and waffles, and it's just going to be great. So yeah, it's going to be a fab day. So anyway, I'm going to go. That's it from me today. I will look forward to seeing you all on the 27th. Take care guys, bye.